Happy Sunday, my friends, and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. On today's episode of the Prime, we're going to be breaking down the New York Jets season preview. You don't want to miss any of our content, so please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point. Hopping right there is my co-host, Mr. T.J. Hopkins. Happy Sunday, TJ. How's the weekend going? How are you, my friend?
Could have been better. I thought some financial relief was coming on Friday, but it never came. So it'll come tomorrow. But I was trying to take my oldest niece to see Deadpool and Wolverine. So we just gotta wait a day, So yeah.
The best things are ones that come to when you wait. So all that does.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
like I was upset about it, but then at the same time it's all like what can you do? Like it's out of my
it's like one of those things. Like yes, I could get really upset about it, but it's really something that's like completely out of your control.
It's 100% out of my control. It's just like whatever. Anyway, yeah. How's your weekend?
Man, so yeah, I had a terrible Friday at work, right? So I had to produce two shows at 5 and 6, and somehow during my 6, like I like the way stacking TV works and such, like the way like directors have to like put shows together, like so for some reason somehow a story that was in my A block got like moved higher up into the A block, like without me touching it, without anybody else touching it, and literally fucked my entire A block of my show.
Great.
Yeah.
We love that.
And it literally all the videos got fucking blown out. Like it was literally the worst show I've ever produced, least block of show I've ever. I was so mad. I had to leave the building as soon as the show was over. Like I usually hang out a little bit and talk. I had to get out of there. I was really pissed off. Like I was real mad. And I'm trying not to dwell on it because I try not to, because I couldn't do it. It was completely out of my fucking control. But I was mad, big mad, and
I don't blame you, bro. Like, shit,
you spent all.
Yeah. I know how hard it is to make a show, but it's mad.
And for something to happen like that is completely out of your control. And I try not to dwell on stuff like that. Like I'm like, because I've done this long enough where I understand like tomorrow's a new day. I'll get to do something different the next day. But like I'm still thinking about it now, and it's still pissing me off. So yeah, I don't know. Tomorrow's a new day. We're gonna worry about it tomorrow. Let's get into the New York Jets. A lot of hype around the Jets last season, but the hype has died down a little bit this season. I don't know if it's just because I don't really watch mainstream media when it comes to like ESPN.
It's partly because of that. Like they're talking about the Jets.
But I remember last season, like before the season started, there was the hype for the Jets was insane. Like
otherworldly. Like it's compared to a year ago. Yeah, it's tame versus what it was a year ago, and rightly so, right? Like Rodgers didn't play a full season. He played 4 snaps. He didn't play 4 snaps. So yeah, forgive us, Jets fans, if we don't rush to I'm excited to see the Jets. Like no, like Aaron Rodgers coming off an injury where it doesn't get better the older you get. It's anything. It's more pressing. It's more concerning, and this is where we are. Like the return of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So yeah, Aaron Rodgers is slated he's going to return from that Achilles tear. Obviously, as we talked about, played 4 snaps in that Monday Night Football game against the Buffalo Bills before tearing that Achilles. Had 1 pass attempt. And so what are we expecting out of Aaron Rodgers, who did have a down season the season before and now coming off a major injury? Obviously, he had basically the full length to recover. But like, what is the return of talking about the return of Aaron Rodgers? What are the expectations? I mean, last season it was like, oh, this team's going to be a Super Bowl contender. What is the expectations now?
Unfortunately, but naturally, the expectations are the same. Right? They don't care that you're coming off a torn Achilles, dude. You're Aaron fucking Rodgers. You're the greatest, like you might be the greatest talent to ever throw a football. You're going to go down in history with a 4-1 touchdown to interception ratio. That's never going to be repeated again. Like think about that. For every 4 touchdown passes you threw, you only throw 1 interception. You're at your advanced age. You're 40 years old. You still don't have you barely have over 105, barely over 100 career interceptions. You have 105 career interceptions at this age in your career. People don't care, bro. And David said it. Like you had a down year prior to the torn Achilles. You know what his down year was?
26-12 with 3,600 yards. Like,
are you kidding? Like that's a down year for Aaron Rodgers. That's how high he set the bar. And that's kind of why we picked on Izzy with the whole when he was in Green Bay. It's like, yeah, you've had 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play. You've had 2 Super Bowls to show for it. I would be pissed, me personally, if I had 30 years of Hall of Fame quarterback play and 2 measly Super Bowls in 30 years. Me, because that's just like, yeah. So if you're the Jets, yes, unfortunately, the expectations are the same. It's Super Bowl or bust. I hate to say that. I really do, because I feel like with the season coming off that injury, we haven't seen their schedule. With your division, obviously it feels like it's gonna come down to you and Buffalo and Miami, right? It's gonna be the 3 of y'all. If you're not in the mix at the end of the year, why'd you make that move? Why'd you get Aaron Rodgers?
Yep. I mean, they've done it like this offensive line wasn't remotely good last season. They spent a lot of money in free agency and in the draft addressing the offensive line concerns. I mean, when you're talking about numbers and you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, I mean, we expect him to be right around where he's been the last couple seasons. I mean, we're talking 4,000 yards. We're talking about 30 touchdowns and under 10 picks. That's the bar that Aaron Rodgers has set.
That's the bar he set.
And they've added wide receivers to this team. They've added they've done a good job putting stuff around him to make his life a little easier. So he doesn't have to kind of be the hero all the time. I think it'll be very interesting, like that week 1 when he's going to be playing on Monday Night Football again, and like to see him trot back onto the field. I'm pretty sure the game's at home. So, no, they're at Levi Stadium in San Fran. So never mind. But
first game of the season is the yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, against the 49ers, it's tough.
Yeah. Welcome back.
I mean, this is a Jets team last season that still managed to find a way to win 7 games last season. With like the turnstile at quarterback that they had last year. I mean, add Aaron Rodgers, like you expect you can get at least 3 more wins and be in the hunt for a wild card spot, just given the upgrade at the quarterback position. Yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers should make this team better. Period. I mean, any upgrade over whatever they did last season with the turn, like Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian and Tim Boyle, all throwing passes for the
Mike White
last season. Mike White didn't take a snap for them last season, actually. Mike White was in Miami. No, I think he was in Miami.
Oh, yeah, he was in Miami. He's in Miami.
Yeah,
right.
That was the season before. But yeah, Tim Boyle started 3 games. I mean, yeah, so, I mean, this is obviously an upgrade. Aaron Rodgers has set a really high bar for his own play. It just kind of depends on what he's going to look like. Aaron Rodgers also gets a lot of criticism for stuff that he does outside of football and like the way he handles his regimen.
And the irritating part about that is it's all stuff that he can't control. Like every year, like he does this. Well, there's a difference between voluntary and involuntary. And we're like, dude, you played 4 snaps with these dudes last year. Take your ass to minicamp. You have no rapport with them. Like you have I understand you can do pitch and catch with them, but that's not game time speed. That's not real. That's not how you do that there. Like it's every year you do something off the wall, you say some off the wall shit, and it's almost like I see why Green Bay was tired of your ass, bro. Like that's what it gets to. But the reason Aaron Rodgers rubs people the wrong way, and like it's partly because like he does it himself. Like I'm not even gonna get into the stuff with the whole him versus Jimmy Kimmel. Like I did not have Jimmy Kimmel and Aaron Rodgers beefing on my bingo card in 2024.
Neither did I. And it's like the darkness retreat and like all of that noise. So like I think we'll see what ends up happening with Aaron Rodgers because he was on the Pat McAfee show every week until he wasn't.
Until he
And
wasn't.
then I mean, like, is he gonna be doing that again this season? Like, is that gonna he was really only people expected that he only really did that because he was injured and he couldn't play. So is he going to be back on the Pat McAfee show every week? Is that going to return? So I think, the return of Aaron Rodgers obviously is a positive. We'll see what he ends up looking like in week 1. Let's talk on the other side of the ball. Let's talk about this defense. Even with the quarterback play that was last season, the Jets were the 3rd best defense in terms of yards allowed per game. They were the 2nd best passing defense in terms of yards allowed per game. So yeah, but when it comes to points, they were like middle of the pack, giving up 20.9 points per game, which is right around. It's in the top. It's outside the top 10. It's probably like 15 or so. I'm not going to count right now, but yeah, this defense is on paper is fantastic. But how good is this defense, and is it a Super Bowl caliber defense?
It's been a Super Bowl caliber defense for a long time. Like, that's why you got Aaron Rodgers, because you were tired of this defense holding teams to 10 and 14 points, but your offense is not scoring, and the opposing teams are like, hey, if we could just stay here long enough, if we can just get enough stops, that defense will break. That defense will crack. And we'll just hold on. What was it, Thanksgiving a year or so ago when they played the Dolphins, and that game just went straight to hell for them. Like, they threw a Hail Mary at the end of halftime.
Yeah. It was the Dolphins.
And it was a pick 6 to end the half. Like, bruh.
There was the fail Mary or whatever it was.
Like, bruh, like, like, it couldn't have gotten any worse.
That was actually the first time in NFL history that a Hail Mary attempt resulted in a pick 6 going the other way. Like, in the history of the league.
And the NFL's been around for now, what, 103 years now?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And yeah, that's why you brought in Aaron Rodgers, because you have that much faith in this defense. You have that much faith in Sauce Gardner. Now you're kind of fucking yourselves up because Hassan Reddick is not reporting to camp. Why? Because Hassan Reddick's looking for his deal. And it's almost like, what are you doing?
If you're the Jets, I mean, you traded for this guy. You had to have known that he was going to want it. Like, he was obvious. The reason he didn't want to stay in Philadelphia anymore because he wanted a new contract. So if you're going to trade for the guy, you kind of almost have to assume.
And this is a guy
I'm going to have to pay this guy.
I'm going to have to pay this guy. And this is a guy who, in the last 4 years alone, has been up there with TJ Watt, Myles Garrett.
He's had double-digit sacks each of the last 4 seasons. Like, the guy's been excellent.
And he's up there with
he's supposed to be your Bryce Huff replacement guy.
Yeah, and he's been up there with the best of the best, the creme de la creme in terms of sacks in the last 4 years. And he's like, I'm not stepping on the field without a new deal. And people need to understand, like, the players who hold out at camp, they're not selfish, they're not self-centered. They're not whatever you want to call them. How many times have we seen players get hurt in training camp and they're done for the season?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, that happened. A lot. That just happened to a Cowboys player today who's not even. We're not even in training camp yet.
Like, so it's like, oh, this person's selfish. It's like, no, he wants his bag, and the killer part is, once again, he's earned his fucking bag, bro. He's earned his bag.
If you don't have Hassan Reddick, I mean, you're looking at Solomon Thomas, who's been a complete bust. Will McDonald the fourth, who's a second-year player who didn't really show up all that much last season. I mean, Tack McKinley, who's still in the NFL for some reason, after a brief stint in the XFL.
Solomon Thomas' saving grace was that Mitch Trubisky went ahead of him,
and they were traded for each other, basically.
Sorry, Solomon Thomas' saving grace was that Mitch Trubisky was ahead of him, because if it wasn't for Mitch Trubisky, Solomon Thomas would probably be the biggest bust of that draft class. This defense is Super Bowl worthy. You can get to the Super Bowl with this defense. Like, you can get to the Super Bowl with the guys that got on offense. We're not going to shortchange the offense either. Like Garrett Wilson, you got Mike Williams from the Chargers. Like, you got Brees Hall, who could be a top 10 running back in this league.
Top 5.
Yeah, right. Real Holyfield, like top 5. Not trying to shortchange him. I just think like it's just a lot of good running backs in there. So like if I say somebody's top 10, that's not an insult. And I don't know who you really got at tight end, but hell, anybody.
And Tyler Conklin, Jeremy Rucker is a guy they drafted, who's a good football player.
I saw Aaron Rodgers make what's his name? Why is his name escaping me?
Big Bob Tunyon.
Yeah, well, him and like the guy that caught the Hail Mary against Detroit all them years ago.
Richard Rodgers.
Yeah, I saw Aaron Rodgers turn Richard Rodgers into a household name. Like, bro, like. True.
I mean, there's been a Michael McFinley or whatever his name was.
Jermichael Finley. Like, bro, like it's like he ain't had the best tight ends to work with these last 20 some odd years, but like it's the goal. The name of the game is Super Bowl for the Jets. Is Robert Saleh on the hot seat unfairly? Robert Saleh is unfairly on the hot seat. Why? Because it's New York.
Yeah, I think there were. I was actually somewhat surprised that he didn't get fired after last season, but I think he got a saving grace with the fact that you didn't have Aaron Rodgers.
Not right. It's a different ball game if Aaron Rodgers is healthy and y'all limp y'all way to 7 wins like you did. Then we gotta have a conversation. Then we gotta talk. We gotta have a serious convo. Like the fact, like you said, you got to saving grace. Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles in the first 4 minutes of the game, and that was that. Your season pretty much was done because no one had faith in Zach Wilson doing anything remotely good before the New York Jets. Robert Saleh is unfairly on the hot seat, and I don't get it because like you brought him in, like we saw what the defense is. Like we see what the defense is. That's him. That's literally his calling card. Like if you're a specific type of head coach, he's a defensive minded head coach. Your side of the ball, your area of expertise, has to at least be good. And we're not going to sit here and act like it's not.
Oh, it's better than good. It's excellent.
It's excellent. So, yeah, the Jets have a Super Bowl caliber defense. Robert Saleh is unfairly on the hot seat because of terrible fucking quarterback play. He's had 5 different quarterbacks take snaps for him. Like, and David named them all: Tim Boyle, Mike White, Joe Flacco.
That's just last season, but yeah,
that's just last. I'm just saying, like over the last two seasons prior to Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Mike White, Joe Flacco, Mike White again, Zach Wilson. Like, bro, like it's bad. It's all the way bad.
You forgot Chris Stevler as well.
Like, preseason hero. Right, preseason hero Chris Streveler. Like, dude had 2 good preseason games.
Yeah, without a doubt. Moving on from there, let's talk about this draft. They took Fashanu, the tackle out of Penn State, as they try to rebuild this offensive line. They took a wide receiver out of Western Kentucky. They took another running back out of Wisconsin. They took a flyer on Jordan Travis, the quarterback out of Florida State. They took another running back out of South Dakota State. They took a corner, and then they took a safety, Jalen Key, out of Alabama. Out of the CFL. I think he's part of like the international.
Yeah, international thing. Yeah. Which is cool. I think the NFL should have been doing that. Like, I'm still mad they got rid of NFL Europe. Like in the early Madden games, like Madden 2005, 6, 7, all them early Madden for PlayStation 2, they had those NFL Europe teams in the game. Like, I'm like, who are these people? They was trash. They was just like some teams you can like beat up on, like so you can like get good at the game and stuff. But like they nixed that program. But you draft for Shanu simply for the fact that what's his name, Mekhi Becton didn't work. That was terrible. That was a terrible experiment gone wrong. So you're hoping for an upgrade there. He should literally be able to play right now, like starting left tackle. Malachi Corley, I think he's a speed demon. I want to say he's fast as hell. Because I ain't really watch a lot of Western Kentucky. I ain't gonna hold you.
So he's not quite a blazer, 4.56 in the 40. His player comp is Deebo Samuel. He's had 29 in 3 seasons.
That's a bar.
In 3 seasons at Western Kentucky. He had 29 touchdowns and had 2,000 yards just after the catch, the most in FBS by far. So yeah, this is a guy who's a bruising running back. Yards after the catch and touchdowns. The Jets did have to give up a third and a fifth in order to move up to get him. His nickname is called the Yak King, as he was known in college.
It's about Malachi Corley, right?
Yeah.
And then you get Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, who's like 19 years old. Like, dude, young as hell. He's like, I don't even think he's 20 years old yet, and got drafted.
While he was at Wisconsin, he rushed for 3,500 yards. We're around here on Prime Sports World, and 35 touchdowns. He doesn't turn 21 until January. He's the youngest player in the draft. He had a 610-pound squat as a freshman.
Dude is a monster. He's a monster and a half.
6'1", 235 pounds. Like, he is a perfect complement to Breece Hall.
Yeah. Like you see a lot of teams go through the whole, that thunder and lightning. So like you get sliced and diced by Breece Hall, then all of a sudden here comes a 20-year-old who can squat 610 pounds, like for fun, by the way. Like he just for fun. And then you prep for the future with Jordan Travis. Again, Jordan Travis in the 5th round only was a 5th round pick because he got hurt. Jordan Travis.
He improved as a passer at Florida State. His final season there, 20 touchdowns to 2 picks.
Florida State
10-1 ratio.
Florida State could have easily been a playoff team if Jordan Travis don't get hurt. Like that ass whooping that they took at the hands of Georgia in that playoff game, you could argue that they shouldn't have even been there, because if he don't get hurt, ain't no telling what Florida State do. So like again, I wish I could have seen what Florida State was had he not gotten hurt, because like those 20 touchdowns, like hey, he def could have had a lot more. He could have had a lot more.
And then Isaiah Davis, running back out of South Dakota State, not a burner, 6 foot, 218 pounds, did rush for 1,500 yards, 1,600 yards around here, 18 touchdowns at South Dakota State his final season. For his career, he ran for 4,500 yards and 50 touchdowns while he was at South Dakota State. The only question I really have is did the Jets need to take another running back, given the depth that they already have at that position? I think I would have rather them have maybe addressed something else. I mean, they could always use it, but I would have liked to see them go another way, at least with this particular pick. But when you're taking a player in the 5th and 6th rounds, you're just kind of taking a shot in the dark, and hopefully this guy ends up being something productive. But yeah, I mean, the guy was productive, and he has 4.57 in the 40. Was a little bit slower than you'd like to see out of a running back. He could be a really good special teamer, if at the very, very worst.
Yeah, like they did what they had to do, and then anytime you get an Alabama kid, you already know what you're getting. You're getting a hard worker, you're getting a disciplined kid, so on and so forth, all that good stuff.
Mr. Irrelevant, 6'1", 208-pound safety, 4.6 in the 40. He began his career at UAB, only played 1 season at Alabama, but did start 12 games for Nick Saban, had only 1 pick and 2 pass defended. He's just a kind of more depth at the safe position. And this kid, Quantez Stinger, is the kid from CFL. He's got good prototypical size at the cornerback position, 5'11", 203 pounds, ran a 4.45 in the 40-yard dash. Did not play any college at all, but played 1 season for the Toronto Argonauts, where he recorded 5 picks and was named the most outstanding defensive rookie in the CFL last season. Another guy is just depth at a very, might as well take a swing on like a CFL player.
Why not? Like why not? Like it don't hurt. It don't hurt. It don't help or hurt you. I think that's how that phrase goes. It's like one of those. Like we'll see what you can do, and he could probably always go back to Canada. Possibly. Yeah. I don't have a problem with the draft class. Like I like they addressed they saw their weaknesses. They saw what they needed, and we need a linchpin at left tackle. The last guy we took didn't work, and the guy we got now, I think Tyron Smith stayed the starting left tackle, right?
Yeah, and Morgan Moses, who we're going to talk about here in a minute, is a starting right tackle. Fashanu is currently listed as the backup to Tyron Smith at left tackle. So it's not clear when he's actually going to see the field. So
yeah, if it's Tyron Smith. Let's be honest, he's seen better days. Like I hate to be that person.
He doesn't stay healthy the majority of the time. Yeah, so I think there is going to be an opportunity for him to play some point this season.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, I like their draft class too. The Isaiah Davis pick, the running back out of South Dakota State, is the only real question mark I have when it comes to the draft. But otherwise, I think they did a great job addressing major needs and putting going to be a good product here on the football field for the New York Jets. Let's talk about free agency. So notable additions, they brought in Mike Williams from the Chargers. They traded for Hassan Reddick and then refused to pay him. Tyron Smith comes over from the Dallas Cowboys. Morgan Moses comes over for the Ravens. Their key departures, Mekhi Becton, who was a first-round pick only like 3 years ago. Bryce Huff, who had his best season as a pro, he ends up going to Philadelphia. Zach Wilson's no longer the starting quarterback of this team, and they lost Laken Tomlinson. There are some other guys that they lost that I think are less important than those guys right there. Like they lost John Franklin Myers, who's an edge rusher. They lost CJ Uzoma to the Eagles. They brought in Tyron Taylor to be the main backup for Aaron Rodgers, which is a steady hand that you're going to have and need a backup quarterback. They brought in Jordan Whitehead, who basically got his bonus in the first game of the season last year. He ends up in Tampa Bay. They brought in Javon Kinlaw, who was originally a 49er. They brought in Isaiah Oliver, who was a corner. They lost Quentin Jefferson, who was an interior offensive lineman or defensive lineman. They lost Brett Rippon, for what it's worth. I didn't even realize Brett Rippon was even on the team. But yeah, So those are the main cogs that they lost. I think this is a team that addressed offensive line. Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith. Bringing in Mike Williams to be wide receiver 2. You can definitely do worse than that when it comes to your wide receiver 2. And then, Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses to play right and left tackle for as long as they can stay healthy. That's some pretty good movement right there. And as long as they can get Hassan Reddick back onto the field, he's going to be valuable at whenever that happens. And actually, they traded John Franklin Myers to the Broncos with Zach Wilson. I'm not sure what they got back in that deal, but they traded Zach Wilson and John Franklin Myers to the Broncos.
And so, again, Mike Williams. Now, it's like, hey, you could have a number 2 wide receiver. Oh, Mike Williams. Oh, just the guy who can get 1,000 yards in his sleep when he's on the field. The caveat is him being on the field. Again, Hassan Reddick. You traded for a guy, then you're not paying him. Like usually, when you trade for a guy who's up for a new deal, that's kind of like the first thing you do. After, like the Bears traded for Montez Sweat, they signed him the next day. Like they extended him the next day, right?
Yeah.
The Bears traded Khalil Mack to the Chargers. The Chargers gave him a new deal. It's kind of how
I think they restructured his old deal and then extended some of his. But anyways, it's the same idea.
It's the same idea. The concept's still the same.
You almost have to, if you're trading for a guy who's disgruntled because he wants a new deal, you're probably going to have to give him a new deal. We're talking about this.
The Dolphins traded for Tyreek Hill and gave him a new deal.
Yeah.
Like what are we doing, New York? Like you also you gotta look at it like this, man. Like we statistically have the worst quarterback in Hall of Fame history in Joe Namath. Like that's that's our, like when we're talking quarterback.
He's in the Hall of Fame because of that guarantee. His career numbers are abysmal. It's unreal.
Like you don't have a history of treating free agents well and being aggressive in free agency, and then you finally show signs of that. Mostly because you got a guy in Aaron Rodgers who's like, hey, I went through this shit in Green Bay. I'm not spending my last years of my NFL career having a big poking pride to get y'all to give me some goddamn help out there so we all got the same goal, right? Tyron Smith. I felt like Tyron Smith should have been one of those dudes who started his career with a team, ended that career with a team. But Tyron Smith feels
I agree with you on that.
And the Tyron Smith unfortunately doesn't feel the same way I feel in the fact of he feels like he can still play this game at a high level. I think Tyron Smith is dealing with injuries that make you have that conversation with your family, bro. Like the head and neck are injuries I wholeheartedly do not play with. If I have, like, we see Leighton Vander Esch is probably going to have to retire soon. We just saw Michael Gallup literally retire because of a neck injury. Like, life goes on after this game.
I mean, you only play football for so long before, huh? I mean,
because you're like right, you said like this game of football is probably not even 10% of your life.
No, for sure not. It's less than that, probably.
This is probably less than that, and like you want to be able to enjoy life after football. And dude, you got head injuries, you got a neck injury, and I wholeheartedly felt like Tyron Smith should have considered retirement. But hey, the old adage of you don't get old because you stop playing, you stop playing because you get old. Like you got to flip that. Like you don't stop playing because you get old because you stop playing. Like that adage has gotten a lot of people hurt. Like I hated seeing Big Ben walk off the field the way that he did because he wasn't a Big Ben that I grew up with. Like it was painful to watch. It was painful to watch Peyton and Drew Brees in their last years. Now Tyron Smith, you've been known as a linchpin at the left tackle spot, bro. If you become a turnstile, then what?
Yeah. Well, luckily they've drafted somebody to have an insurance policy if that is the case. I mean, but they also brought in right tackle Morgan Moses, who's dealt with his own share of injuries as well.
His own share of injuries. Man.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty banged up for a big portion of his career as well. But I think as a whole, I mean, Mike Williams is nice. I mean, bringing in Hassan Reddick in theory is a good somebody to replace Bryce Huff. Once they get all that mess figured out, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses to rebuild his offensive line. Let's not forget the reason that Aaron Rodgers, quote unquote, tore the Achilles is because he had pressure in his face and he had to bail out of the pocket. And then, he gets taken down and he blows the Achilles out. I mean, improving this offensive line had to have been priority number one, and they addressed it with two of their free agent signings, one of those via the trade, and then they addressed it in the draft. I personally like what they did in free agency. I'm not that concerned about any of the players that they lost. Zach Wilson, Bryce Huff, Kai Becton, Laken Tomlinson, even the random players that I mentioned afterwards. I think
the only one who I'd be semi concerned with them losing was CJ Uzomah, because I feel like a quality tight end is something that you can't just knock. And it's like, I would rather have CJ Uzomah than whatever they got at tight end right now.
I like Tyler Conklin, but
it's no disrespect to Tyler Conklin, but
outside of that one season in Cincinnati, I mean, CJ Uzomah has been just okay in the NFL. Like I don't think I'm not even sure how many yards he had last season or how long he's been a Jet.
But to be fair, he had people throwing him the ball.
I know. But I mean, he had that one good season in Cincinnati where he had 493 yards. I mean, he's been in the league longer than you would think. Like he's been in the NFL since 2015. He's already 31 years old. Like he's older than you.
He's older than me.
His last two seasons in New York, 230 yards and 2 touchdowns. And last season, playing in 12 games, had 58 yards receiving and a touchdown.
Yeah, again, I would like to see. Where is he at? Do you know where CJ was almost at now?
He's in Philadelphia.
Okay, so
I'm not concerned about CJ Uzomah.
Okay, that's fine. That's you. That is your prerogative. I am not going to knock you for that thought process.
Tyler Conklin is a better football player today than CJ Uzomah is. Tyler Conklin had 621 yards receiving last season.
Really disagree.
Okay. Moving on. Let's just get right into the schedule. Let's talk about ceiling and floor for the New York Jets. As the first part of they actually have a fairly easy schedule. So they benefit from that. But their first game is going to be tough going to San Francisco. So let's go to the floor first. What do you expect the floor to be for the New York Jets for next season? Obviously, they draw the AFC South and the NFC West when it comes to divisions that they're going to have to play this season.
Well, again, ain't no cupcakes. All right, so your floor. Man, if everybody stays healthy, everybody, no injury, your floor is 10-11 wins, 10-7, 11-6. That's your floor. Your ceiling, you got to be 12-5, 13-4, somewhere in that ballpark. You got to win the division. You got a home field advantage. That's your ceiling, right? Your floor, everybody stay healthy. You 10-7.
I'm not going to go that high with the floor. I think there are some tough games here. I think there are games that they could potentially lose. I think they're going to split with Buffalo. I think they'll split with Miami. I think they're going to lose to San Francisco. In a hypothetical world, like they lose to San Francisco. I think they could lose to Houston. They could lose to the Jaguars. They could lose to the Rams. So what is that? 4, 6. I guess 10-7 is. I guess 10-7 is probably where I got there. I mean, they could lose both of them to Buffalo, so we got 10-7 right there. Yeah, I think because of this schedule, I mean, because they were so trash last season, they actually get lucked out with a pretty easy schedule. I mean, they don't have to play Kansas City. They don't have to play the Ravens. They don't have to play like. They don't have to play on the other side of the conference. I mean, they don't have to play Dallas, or they don't have to play Detroit. Detroit.
But it's bad. It's still bad enough that you got to play the Niners. You got to play the Rams. You got to play Jacksonville, who's expected to be better. You got to play the Texans, who's probably going to be competing the way people talk about them. Like, the Texans could be a Super Bowl team, and C.J. Stroud's already a top 5 quarterback, and he could be MVP and all this other stuff. You're going to play an Arizona team who could wholeheartedly be sneaky good on offense with healthy Kyler throwing that pill to Marvin Harrison Jr. That's going to be so much fun watching Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Sauce Gardner. That's going to be fun. That's going to be real fun. Pittsburgh could be it's like, to your point, they're gonna have some tough games, but 10 wins, 10-7 should be the floor. Should still be the floor.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that notion. They're like missing like aren't you supposed to play like one team in every division? Like shouldn't they be playing like somebody in the NFC East and somebody in the NFC South? Right? Isn't that how schedules are put together?
They're playing the NFC West and the AFC South, right? Plus their own, plus their own division.
Yeah, I could have sworn that you play whoever finished in the same position as you on the other side. Mm-hmm. But I guess not. I mean, okay.
But what place did they finish? Like they finished.
They were the third. They were the third. They were third in their division because I kind of thought you had to play. Okay, never mind.
Well, technically it is them because they're playing. Like, didn't Seattle finish third? Like that's their.
No, they're playing that. They're playing that entire division. Because but. Anyways, never mind. Moving on. But yeah, let's talk about the other side. Yeah, the ceiling. I'm a little bit less like I still think Buffalo, even with what they've lost this offseason, I still think they're a better football team on paper than the Jets. I still don't think they're better than Kansas City. They're probably not better than the Ravens, but I do think that they're probably the ceiling is probably a 13-win team. I mean, you still split with Buffalo, you still split with Miami, you lose to San Francisco, but every other game on this schedule I think is very winnable. Where maybe I'll go 14-3 as the quote unquote ceiling for this team, where they're in the contention for sure for that first round bye.
Yeah. But again, like the expectations are what they are. Like you put this team together, you signed Aaron Rodgers for the simple fact of for years you've been a team that's been there. Like you've been right there. Like the Mark Sanchez era, back-to-back AFC championships. What's his name? Rex Ryan. This is the year we're going to win a Super Bowl, bro. You should have been fired right then and there because you don't make predictions like that, then come up short. Like, fired, bro. Like, and then we saw how that ended. That ended ugly. Like that was terrible.
The butt fumble, all that noise. But yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a Jets team that's going to be like, you're not sneaking up on it. You got expectations. They're going to be good this season. I got them at 11-7 as their floor. I got 14-3 as the ceiling for the New York Jets. They will for sure be heard from this season as they're going to be knocking on the door for a wild card spot or even winning the division there in the AFC East. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us here for our New York Jets season preview. Thank you very much. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the Miami Dolphins as they just paid Tua Tagovailoa over the weekend. So he is now the franchise quarterback there in Miami. He was that guy before. They just made it official now. So we'll end up seeing how they end up shaking out. We're going to talk about them in the next episode of The Prime. You don't want to miss any of that content, so please like, share, and subscribe. We're live on Twitch, we're live on YouTube, and we're live on Facebook, giving you guys all the content basically every single day. And I do think our college football show is going to return this week, so you don't want to miss any of that stuff. And TJ, what do we do here at The Prime, my friend?
We send our well wishes to our friend Matt James. Get well soon, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's going to have a surgery over next week. So, yeah, we're wishing him the best. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery.
Indeed.
But, yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow. You guys all stay safe and take it easy, guys.